came to me and my sister and said, hey, are you guys interested in this? Would you like to run a business? And I saw that as a great opportunity, and opportunity doesn't knock twice. So we went ahead and took it.
Tulsa Talks is the podcast that is inspiring people to have everyday meaningful conversations to gain perspective and help the world.
Who do you guys mainly service?
Mostly we're business to business, and we service schools, banks, churches, gourmet popcorn shops, food trucks. So anybody that is selling a food item is our main people who buy from us.
Okay. So food trucks.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't even thought about that one.
Yeah.
So how many food trucks do you guys currently supply?
There's probably 2 or 3 that I could say buy from us consistently. You know, most of our stuff is not necessarily catered to food trucks, but some of them enjoy our products.
Okay. So what is your product line?
The main one is going to be popcorn kits. That's what we sell the most of. And that is the popcorn kernels with the salt and oil all in one packet. You cut the top off, you pour it in your popcorn machine, and it pops out like a movie theater butter popcorn. That's our number one seller. That's our lifeblood. And then we have a bunch of other just different types of concession supplies. Of course, we stock snow cone syrup and cotton candy floss sugar. We have soft pretzels and nacho cheese, funnel cake and corn dog mix, that kind of stuff.
Okay, and most of that sounds like it's product that would remain fresh for a while.
Correct, yeah. All of our stuff is shelf stable.
For how long?
It depends on the product. A lot of it has a shelf life of about a year.
Yeah, so that's pretty stable.
Yes.
And how did you end up going into Popco business?
Well, I have lived a very lucky life, and I was just out of college. I had a brand new baby, and my dad had the opportunity to buy the business from some older gentlemen that were retiring. They had started it back in the 80s. And he came to me and my sister and said, hey, are you guys interested in this? Would you like to run a business? And I saw that as a great opportunity, and opportunity doesn't knock twice. So we went ahead and took it.
And what does your day-to-day job look like with this company?
So I do most of the admin stuff. I'm the person that makes the calls, you know, and basically runs the business. I manage our inventory. I do all of the ordering. I do, you know, any quotes that people need for equipment, and basically making sure that everybody else is doing the jobs that they need to be doing as well.
And how many employees? We
have one who is not family. So there's 5 of us all together. We've got my husband, who's our delivery driver, my sister, who's our repair department. And then I have a part-time associate who's been with us for 2 years. And then we have a bookkeeper that comes in quarterly.
Okay. And you guys have like football stadiums and such like that?
Absolutely. Most of the schools in our area use us for their concession supplies. PTAs, the UMAC is one of our big customers, but most of the schools we do something for.
Yeah. And how would you expand your services to experience growth?
So we're trying to really push our rentals, you know, so that's part of the more of a retail experience instead of business to business. We're looking to get people who are booking birthday parties and weddings and special events. That way we're not solely focused on business to business. We're able to sell a little bit to anybody.
We have get-togethers at my house, as you know, since you live 3 doors down from us.
Sure.
And we have a nice place out back. Very fortunate to have it and have people over. What could we buy from you or rent from you to experience a better get-together? Yeah,
so we've got popcorn, cotton candy, snow cone, and nacho cheese machines for rent. And then we also have, if you rent 3 machines, you can get a $50 coupon, and we call that our fair deal. And so that just kind of, you know, helps encourage people to rent more machines, which also means that they'll buy more supplies.
Would this be like for private residents get-togethers, or would this be more like fundraising events?
We have all sorts of customers. So sometimes it is somebody who's got their kid's 5th birthday party and they want a cotton candy machine. Sometimes it's a company that's having a fundraising event, you know, out at the gathering place, and we do supply the gathering place syrups as well. So we have all sorts of people.
About what should a person expect to pay for this sort of thing?
So our rental fee is $65, and that's for a 24-hour period. We do charge a $50 deposit on top of that, but that's returned to the customer when the machine comes back to us. And it's mainly just to ensure that the machine is returned in good condition and on time.
Okay, so a popcorn machine, and then you guys have syrups for
snow cones.
Snow cones. Do you have the snow cone ice shaver machine as well?
We have a snow cone machine for rent, yes.
Okay, and that's how much? I mean,
all of the rentals are $65 for a 24-hour
whatever unit
period.
you want.
Yep.
And you have an assortment of, tell me again, for
popcorn, cotton candy, snow cone, and nacho cheese.
Okay, so $300, you could have a big shindig.
Oh yeah,
or
absolutely.
at least the equipment to be able to do it.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good time.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the only machines you have right now.
Right now, we are looking to expand. We want to add a slushy or margarita machine in the future.
That's exactly what I was thinking about.
Yes.
Not that I'm a heavy drinker by any means, but those things are nice to have around at a party sometimes.
Absolutely. That's the next on our list to add. We just have to make sure that we're doing well enough to invest in the equipment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. How are people receiving you into the general public like that for business to consumer direct?
They're very different clientele. But it's been nice to kind of do both ends of it. For the most part, our customers are really great. I almost never have to deal with somebody who's negative or who's had a bad experience with us. And we really pride ourselves on customer service.
Okay. How do you plan to launch that a little bit further? Because you're already taking care of most of the schools and you're kind of at capacity if you're already taking care of the schools as far as the concession stands are concerned. How do you plan to launch that B2C business stronger?
So one of the things that I'm working on is being able to offer all of our inventory online. That way, if anybody, right now we have just a little bit of our inventory that you can actually purchase online. So I'm working on getting software integrated to help with that infrastructure. Yeah. And then right now there's a lot of word of mouth. I try to keep up on our Facebook page and the general advertising, paying for ads, boosting, that kind of stuff on social media.
Are you using WordPress for your website?
So we actually have two different websites. One is through Wix, and that's our main concessions homepage. Okay. And then the other one is specifically for our rentals, and that one is through WordPress.
Yeah. And you're using WooCommerce?
For that one, we use event rental systems. Okay. That way people can go online and actually reserve their rentals and pay for everything themselves, sign a contract.
Okay. Yeah. And how much is there to doing that? You're doing this yourself?
Yes. Yeah. It's been a learning process. I'm very much a self-taught person, and I have the core belief that I can teach myself anything if I try hard enough. So I've had to pretty much figure most of it out, on the fly. I went to college. I took some business classes, but I didn't minor in business. I just took accounting and business law because I knew that I'd probably need it sometime later.
Well, we're talking about technology, not business anyway, right?
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
Which, wow. Entrepreneurs, how many hats do you get to wear a day?
Oh, yes. So many.
So describe a general day for you in the life of what you do.
Sure. Obviously I wake up, I take care of the children, I get them ready for school, or if they're coming to work with me, then they come to work with me. Once I get to work, have my coffee. Of course, you got to have that. But then sit down, you check emails, and my emails could be, we get a lot of group purchasing emails from some of the companies that we service. And so they just shoot those into me. I hand them over to my part-time associate. She fulfills those shipments, and those just ship out through UPS. I get those outlined. I'll check and reconcile the bank account and the credit card transactions that have come in.
Daily?
I usually do that once a week, and there's not a single transaction that I'm not aware about. I'm very on top of what's coming in and out of the business. Any invoices that have come in, I pay, about once a week. Once a week, I go and check our inventory and do any ordering that I need to do. All of our stuff comes in on pallets. And I always have to be very mindful of, am I ordering a full pallet? Because, of course, each pallet is more in shipping. So you want to be smart about how you're ordering because you don't want to pay more than you have to, So I kind of evaluate all of that. And a lot of that is more by hand than it probably should be. I'm working on automizing more of that. But right now, I pretty much just have my little piece of paper and I go out and see what we need, and then I might quote some people on a popcorn machine or take a meeting call or just whatever else happens to come up throughout the day.
And you didn't talk about any type of a struggle or something that would, well, you did say something that would come up during the day. A lot of people have never owned their own business.
Yeah.
And in our personal lives, we have unexpecteds from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
And does that happen in business too?
Absolutely. I mean, and not just in business, but also in my personal life. And that's one of the things that's really nice about having a family-owned business is that if my kid is having trouble in school and I got to dip out for a meeting with his principal, then I have that freedom to be able to do so. And a lot of people, if you're working a 9 to 5, like that, it's much harder to be able to take care of your personal needs.
But a lot of people say that there are struggles in business that kind of counterbalance that ability to have that time off. Do you have that? Some stressors that might not be there if you didn't own your own business?
Absolutely. I think that you're never really off the clock. If an email comes through or somebody needs something or, I've had customers that because they are businesses, their business relies on mine, they might call me up on a Saturday and say, hey, I need this stuff and you guys closed an hour ago. Can you come meet me up at the store? Absolutely, I can come meet you. That way they can make their money and I can make mine. I want to make sure that I'm there for my customers anytime that I can be.
You ever have any equipment break? Your customers using equipment in the middle of a game or something like this, and then a piece of equipment breaks?
Absolutely. Not so much in the middle of a game, but we definitely have customers that use us for their repair service. Sometimes it is very urgent. We have to have this turned around quickly, and we do our very best to accommodate. We also have a monthly leasing program. So for $35 a month, any local business can get a popcorn popper in their business. And that we own that, they pay their leasing fee. So if there's anything that goes wrong with that machine, that's on us. And so we cover the repairs for that.
I went into different banks. I don't remember which ones they are that have popcorn. Mm-hmm. You guys have some of those?
Absolutely. We service Arvest Bank, Spirit Bank, and Bank First here in Tulsa.
So they're paying $35 a month, roughly, for the popcorn machine? Is that what we're looking at? Basically?
Depending on the location. Some of them want to just buy their machines outright. Some of them are part of our monthly leasing program and have been since, before we even bought the company.
Okay. And why would a company... I mean, I like it. I like walking in there, and I don't bank at any of those three, but sometimes I would have a check from a customer that I needed to cash at their bank for some reason. And I like having popcorn at a place. Yeah. I think some of the dealerships around town have popcorn in their places too.
Absolutely. We service Jiffy Lube, Jim Glover. I know there are more as far as car dealerships go.
Yeah. So you guys have other people in the area that are another competitor company in the area?
Yes. So our closest competitor would be the corn popper, and we call them friendly competition because there have been times where one of us is out of something that we needed and the other one had it, and we've done it on loan. So they've actually loaned us supplies and we've loaned them supplies as well because we want to be friendly competition. We don't want to try to cut throats over here.
Yeah. It's almost collaborating because when we were in the retaining wall industry, we'd have a job that we couldn't get to or something, whatever, or it's too small for us to do. And we'd have those people that did those jobs and had time to do those jobs that we didn't. So kind of the same thing. Spirit of competition is okay because it drives people to be better, and collaboration is good too.
Absolutely.
So what would you do if you didn't do this?
That's a good question. Because I'm a mom and I have to be available for my kids. One of my children has autism and ADHD. He's very high functioning, but that does mean that sometimes I have to just be available, you know. So if I wasn't doing this, I would need to find something that's very flexible. And I'm not sure what exactly that would be. I've considered going back to school or being a therapist or something like that, but hopefully that's not a problem I have to figure out anytime soon.
What was your childhood like that equipped you to be able to do this? Because this is not what you went to school to do, right?
Yeah. So my dad has owned a few different businesses throughout my life. He's very business minded. And I knew that at some point I would have to be running a business because he would not be around any longer. And I would.
You'd have to, or you'd get to?
Both. I think, you know, I think that I prepared myself to have the knowledge to be able to run a business someday. And so when I was a kid, he set me up for success and taught me how to work hard. And he had got me a snow cone stand when I was 14. And I learned how to manage my inventory at that time and service customers. And he had me file the sales tax for that business. He did not tell me that when we were on our off season, I still needed to file a $0 sales tax report. So that came back and I didn't know any better. I was 14. So that's just kind of a funny story, but I feel like, you know, business is kind of in my blood and it's part of my raising.
What kind of business was your family in when you were being raised?
My dad owns Imtech Pest Control, and he started that company in the 1970s. And that has been his money, you know, my whole growing up. And that business has gone through really, really good times and really, really hard times, you know. So I watched his sacrifice and his struggle really pay off for him in the long run. He just bought himself a brand new Corvette last year. So seeing that work ethic and then being offered the opportunity to kind of try to do the same for myself, you know, is really, I feel blessed in that way.
So he has been through triumphs and tragedies. And you've said that your business is challenging at times. Mm-hmm. How has he mentored you? Absolutely. Through this?
Yes. So he owns the business. I run it. And he's pretty hands off. But if there's anything that I have a question about, hey, how should I handle this? You know, or what would you do? He's always there to answer it. He stops by Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesday mornings just to kind of see how things are going and say hi and, you know, offer anything that he can. And so that definitely is helpful to kind of have that guidance.
Is he of growth mindset with you with this business?
I think so. I think that, I mean, he definitely wants us to grow. He is really good at being there when I have the questions, but not necessarily pushing past what I am capable of in the moment. And I think there's been a lot of learning because we've had the business for 8 years now. There's been a lot of learning in the last 8 years on not only how to just run and operate the business in general, but kind of stepping up from that and now like really learning how to grow it and what we need to do.
Yeah. So now you might be in a position where you can work on the business instead of in it as much?
That's the goal. That's the plan. You know, and hiring an associate has helped with that a lot, you know, taking stuff away from like my day-to-day operations so I can focus more on sales prospects. My husband, he's our delivery driver, and he's really been trying to hit cold calls a lot this year. So just walking into businesses, handing them a card, letting them know who we are and what we do. So that's been a big focus. So
you're trying to get popcorn machines or something like that into businesses and also let them know that you can take care of their organizations or private events?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
How many years have you been doing the B2C?
So we've always been open to the general public, but most of our customers are business to business. But as we've added the rentals, I guess we probably added the rentals 5 years ago.
COVID.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. COVID nearly killed us because there were no events. So there were no concessions. And at that point in time, I started making t-shirts because I needed something to do. And then I built a little bit of a t-shirt business. And so that's actually been integrated into Popco now, where we make our own t-shirts. We do t-shirts for customers. And I even have what I call our partners program, which is on our website. But it's where I've partnered with other small businesses that don't want to hold inventory when it comes to their custom merchandise. And so I've built them a landing page on our website where their customer can take an order or can place an order for a t-shirt for their brand. And it comes to me, I fulfill it, and then I cut that partner 30% of the profit or of the sale. And so that helps them because they don't have to invest in any inventory. They don't have to file sales tax. They don't have to work their website, but they can still design and sell their merchandise. I do all the hard work, and then I cut them a little bit on the side.
Yeah, I didn't remember that you do this. How big a scale can you handle?
We're pretty small when it comes to the custom merch. I think the largest order I've done was probably 100 shirts, and that would take me about a week to get done if I'm really hoofing it,
You have this screen print machine at your business?
So I have a sublimation printer, which is a printer that I converted. And that was back when I was doing it from home before I combined it into Popco. And I have a local supplier where I get my direct to film prints.
Okay.
But we heat press them in-house.
Okay.
And then I have a small inventory of different types of t-shirts, hoodies, tumbler cups, and tote bags, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Apparently my eyes aren't very good, or I can't tell the difference anyway in this ironed on instead of having it screen printed.
Sure. So it's a whole different process, but we do mostly direct to film prints.
Why? Just because that's the equipment you have, or is it better in your opinion somehow?
It's easiest. I started with vinyl, where you cut it out of a big vinyl sheet and then you have to weed away everything that's not part of it. And that's really time consuming. And so I found a local direct to film supplier, and they have a great turnaround time. They have a good product. So it's just easier for me to buy my prints from them and then press them onto the garments.
So you press them on the garments and it's got like some kind of backing on it or something that you peel off?
Yeah, it's on just a clear sheet, the design is. And so I press it on with the heat press, and then I pull that clear sheet off.
You seem to have your hands into a lot of different things.
I like to say I do a lot of a little.
You like that?
I think it's suited for my mind. My mind likes to stay busy, and I like to teach myself new things. And if I can find something that combines creativity and functional skill, that's really, I feel like, where I succeed the most.
Okay. So I would say that building websites would probably have that aspect to it.
Absolutely.
I would say that doing these shirts and whatever other merch you do would have something like that as part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see your business in 5 years?
In 5 years, I'm hoping that we're running consistent profits. Each year we have considered, okay, is this a year that we close the doors? Because we're either running a little bit of a deficit or we're just breaking even. And we're finally to the point where we've come back from the pandemic, and our business has stabilized. And I've learned more and more about the things I need to be doing as a person. How do you
make it for 5 years?
I mean, we got grants from the government. We got the small business loans. I think last year or the year before, we got $20,000 from the state of Oklahoma as a small business grant, And so that's helped keep us afloat for the most part.
Maybe I need to talk to you about seeing how we can get a grant for Tulsa Talks and the Complete Peace Movement.
There you go. I don't know a whole lot, but I can certainly research.
Yeah. How did you find out about the opportunity for the grant from the state of Oklahoma?
My dad had heard about it because he runs his pest control business and had just told me, hey, I've heard about this grant. You need to apply for it. And then I applied for it and we got it. And
it's a grant.
Yeah. Yep. You don't have to pay it back. We had to submit financials at the end of the year just to kind of show where all the money went, But past that, there's nothing we have to pay back.
There's a bunch of different ways to do things, aren't there?
Absolutely.
And creative is sometimes a really good way to navigate life instead of just being stuck in a rut.
Yeah.
And how other ways do you find opportunities for your creativity to flow?
I feel like I have learned that life is not going to look the way that you think it might on paper. From the way that I parent my children to the way that I approach my marriage, to the way that I problem solve, I've learned that I can't ever just expect things to be the way they're supposed to be. You know, you have to do what works best for you and your situation and just kind of let that flow.
How do you keep that from becoming chaotic?
It can sometimes, but I think if you really look at the payoff in it, if it's working for you, it doesn't matter if it looks like it does for the rest of the world.
Yeah, it shouldn't look like the rest of the world. But a lot of times I see creatives seem chaotic instead of well managed.
Sure.
And from the outward look, what would you say that your life flow looks like?
I try to be a pretty stabilized person.
Stabilized yet creative.
Yes. Organized with flow. You know, it's about having a track and understanding there might be bends or bumps or turns, but trying to get right back to it and redirect.
If somebody was living in chaos because they were creative and they were living in the flow and they were tired of the results they were getting because they were trying to stay in the flow, but maybe they might not have quite been there. Have you ever experienced that in life where it wasn't working out by any stretch of the imagination the way that you wanted or needed it to?
I think that it really depends on your perspective, you know, because I could find ways right now that my life isn't the way that I think that it should be. But I know that I'm pretty happy where it's at and having appreciation for what you do have. And then I think also having a certain amount of discipline and goal oriented. That way, you know where you're going and where you want to be. Because if you just exist in a flow state, then that's great, you know, but you won't really be able to see any progress.
Won't be able to measure it anyway.
Exactly. Which might be great for some people, but.
Yeah. Yeah. I celebrate people of all walks of life. And I know that a lot of people that I meet are in not a good place and they're wondering why. And they don't think they're in a good place. And they're dissatisfied with the results, and they're like, well, you know, I'll ask them, you know, what's your life plan? How are you navigating life intentionally? They're like, I don't have any idea. I've pretty much given up. And I've been there where life wasn't working for me, and I just put stuff on the back burner. Ignored it, and it didn't get any better.
Yeah.
And that's not enjoyable.
Right.
But you've never experienced anything like that.
Not on a large scale. There's definitely been hard times and disappointments and times where I've felt unsatisfied. And I have some anxiety and some depression and, you know, but generally speaking, the best way to make your life better is to identify the problems and address them.
Yeah, I wasn't saying that I've had life catastrophe where everything was disarrayed, but there were certain things, just like you were talking about just now. And again, how do you deal with that?
I mean, I think you just kind of have to take the punches as they come, you know, and tuck and roll when you can. And when you can't, sometimes you have to allow yourself to have that day of rest or have the day where you don't do anything, you know, and honor that. But you got to get up the next day and you got to keep going, you know.
See where the mark was missed and make all adjustments.
Absolutely. Yep.
And you can do that when you stop. Sometimes better than you can if you continue going.
Yeah. And I feel like for me personally, when I start to feel myself burning out, because sometimes I do, Realizing that and leaning into that and allowing myself, okay, I'm not going to check my email today. I'm going to take a day of rest. I'm going to focus on the things that make me happy. When I lean into it, then I don't get to the point where I can't do it.
Because there are such things as being stuck.
I think so.
Almost immobilized because it's become overwhelming.
Absolutely.
A friend of mine and I are going to homeless shelters.
Great.
And I say homeless shelters, homeless communities, and helping them. And a lot of those people I've made bad decisions and I can't get out of it. I don't know what to do. And hopefully we can all pause from time to time and reassess and move forward in business or whatever else. What is your best customer? Who is your best customer?
Best customer.
Yeah.
By what measure?
By the one that would be your niche. Have you found that?
Since we have so many different types of clientele, I'll tell you my favorite type of customer is they're inevitably, because we do so many PTAs, right? And so parent-teacher associations, when their kids graduate, they leave the PTA. And so there's always new PTA members coming in and they don't know what they're doing. And so sometimes we'll have them come in and they're like, I'm new to this. I don't know what to do. And of course we keep a record of all the sales and we'll say, okay, it looks like you used this much of this in January of last year. So that's probably what you want to do now. And, oh, thank you so much. And so that's my favorite customer to get, is one that I can just genuinely help them figure out what they want and what they need. As far as like sales go, our biggest customers are ones that are more than one location, that are branches or chains. And so that way we can service on a whole, their entire brand or their entire business, locations. But I also really love the gourmet popcorn shops because they're buying popcorn in bulk. They've got new flavors and they're fun to service.
So schools, they're PTAs.
Yes.
And then companies with multiple locations. And then what was the last one? Gourmet
popcorn shops. And so those are usually mom and pop shops. They're local businesses. And so there's a kind of a connection there because we're supplying them. We're a small family business. They're usually a small family business. And so we really rely on each other,
What kind of flavors do you guys offer for that? Because a lot of these gourmets have their flavors, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do they make, I don't know anything about the inner workings behind the scenes on those places.
Sure.
How do they get their flavors?
So we have a few different products that we keep in stock. A lot of them vary from location to location what they want. So we do special orders for them. They'll let me know a couple weeks in advance before they need something. I'll special order it in for them. But the ones that we keep in stock are cheddar and white cheddar in the paste for the popcorn. And then we also have shake-on flavors, and we carry bacon, churro, Cajun, ranch, dill, that kind of stuff.
And you guys have party equipment rental?
Correct.
And hopefully coming soon, a little icy margarita maker?
Yes. Yeah, that's the next investment that we're wanting to make for the rental side of things.
And how do people get in touch with your company?
We have a website, popcoconcessions.com. We also are on Facebook and Instagram, and you can always call or email us as well.
And that information will be on the description of the YouTube.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
And thank you for coming today.
Yeah,
it was
thank
a pleasure
you.
having you here.
We are here to help you discover or develop your passions, how you can use them, and why you exist. How can we help you help others better?